This podcast is one in a series examining the lives of residents that live at PEP housing communities and some of the extraordinary stories they have to share. Welcome to PEP Talks. The 2017 Northern California wildfires had a devastating impact on the state. More than 10,000 firefighters battled a blaze with crews from all over the country and the world. On the evening of October 8th, 2017, the first in a series of several fires broke out in Sonoma County. 911 calls started pouring in with over 1,000 calls within the first 6 hours of the incident. There were red flag warnings issued prior to the fires, but no one could have predicted just how destructive these fires would be. The Tubbs Fire, burning in Napa and Sonoma counties, consumed over 36,000 acres, killed 22 people, 5,643 structures were destroyed, and 317 more were damaged. The Tubbs Fire was the most destructive wildfire in California history. 2 of those deaths happened at Journey's End Mobile Home Park in Santa Rosa. Robert Attubato, 83 years old, lived in Unit 26 for 10 years before the fire burned his home to the ground that night. This is his story.
So I'm at the top of the Kaiser Medical Center. Kaiser Medical Center parking lot. Yeah, I might get a better look here. Okay, so there you see it. Fires right down there. And the mobile homes are just burning.
On the evening of October 8th, 2017, Robert was enjoying the weather at his mobile home at Journey's End Mobile Home Park.
Well, around 11 o'clock, I stepped outside the mobile home unit and I felt a warm breeze. It was like a tropical breeze that I hadn't experienced other than being in Hawaii at one time. And I thought, gee, this is really nice to have such a balmy air breeze coming through.
Robert's enjoyment of the Hawaii-like weather would soon turn into his worst nightmare.
Then I went to bed around 11:30, and I don't know what woke me up. I don't know whether the fire alarm went off or somebody knocked on the door. I didn't have my hearing aids in, so I'm deaf when I don't have my hearing aids. And I opened the door to see what was going on, and I saw it looked like a brush fire along the edge of the park. And I was in my underwear, and I thought, gee, what is this? This fire is going to be an issue here.
After Robert identifies that the fire is burning near his home, he has to decide what to do next. There wasn't anyone there to help him. Faced with what he should take, remember he's in his underwear and he doesn't have his hearing aids in, he opted to get his car working and leave the park.
I think I should get my car out. I was charging the battery inside the house that night, and I took the battery and I was putting it in the car, and the flames were licking around across the street, and I thought, gee, I'm going to get my my keys and all the equipment I had in my pants pocket, and the lights went out. There was no more power. Fumbling around to get the keys to the car and to get some kind of hearing aids. I had a box of hearing aids and I couldn't get to the box. I couldn't get my keys. So I went outside and said I'll get the battery in first, and then I'll come back in and I'll try to look around for these things that I need to get the car out of get dressed and get the car out. And while I was putting the battery in, a police car came by the unit and saw me, and they stopped and got out. And they said something to me, and I couldn't hear what they were saying, and I ignored them. You know, I just kind of like shook my head.
Because you didn't have your hearing aids in.
I didn't have hearing aids. I didn't know what was being said. I suppose they were telling me it was a wildfire, and I said, what's the deal? Why isn't the fire department out getting this flame out? Because it looked like just the brush was going. And he didn't wait for me to respond. He just grabbed me and threw me into the back of the police car. At that point, I didn't think I wanted the help. I wanted to take care of things myself. And there was a hose behind the house that was between my unit and the next unit. And I was thinking, you know, as soon as I get my clothes on and get this car moved out, I'll go to get that hose and I'll start spraying the house.
He begins to get upset, feeling he's trapped and can't get out.
I sat there for a moment and I thought, what am I doing here? I need to get out and take care of things. Have you ever been in the back of a police car? There's no handles on the door. There's no way to reach out through these grills that they put up. So I was just stuck there, helpless. And they drove me out of the park, and they were trying to figure out what to do with me, and I heard radio communication going on. And finally they got me to a bus that was taking these assisted living home people somewhere. And they just left me to get on the bus and get that, and wherever the bus was going to go was where I was going. And there was fire on both sides of the road. Wherever we would go, there would be fire on each side of the road. It looks like the bus is circling around trying to get somewhere. I didn't know where at the time, and it circled back past the park. And I looked out there, and it looked like 60 candles all lit up.
So Robert's on the bus. He can't hear anything because he doesn't have his hearing aids. He's in his underwear, feeling very vulnerable. The bus is full of other residents that live in an assisted living facility. The bus driver doesn't know where he's going. Eventually he gets some instruction, and the bus makes its way to the Finley Center in Santa Rosa.
So I'm walking around Finley Center in my underwear, and I'm asking one of the volunteers that had a bag of clothing nearby, and I said, do you have any pants of any kind? And he looked through and he found what do you call it?
Like sweatpants or?
Sweatpants.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything going.
No. Oh my gosh.
Let me explain the Finley Center situation. I didn't have any, I had sweatpants on. I went around and I found another volunteer with a bag of clothing, and I asked if they had a shirt of any kind, and so I got a sweatshirt from that bag. And then I went to another volunteer that seemed like he was trying to be helpful. And I asked, do you have any shoes? Because I've been...
Oh, you don't even have shoes on.
I'm walking around in my bare feet for hours in the Finley Center after I got this clothing. And he said, no, we don't have any shoes. But what he did was he sat down and he took off his shoes and his socks, and he gave me his socks. It was like a religious act. I thought I got his name, and I went back to the Finley Center many times to see if I could contact him.
That's amazing. So he just took off his...
So he gave me some socks, his own socks, and I still have them. If I ever find out who he is, I'll give him back his socks.
I asked Robert how he did at the Finley Center, a community center turned disaster center in a matter of hours.
The old people were put into these big rooms in the Finley Center, and they were laying down on the floor and trying to sleep, from what I can gather.
Oh, you had to lay on the floor, you didn't even have cots?
No, there was no cots. No, I think there were pads of one kind or another that some people had that were just happened to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember people having cots, no. It was too much of a situation. Well, what happened was I was trying to contact my daughter. And that's when I discovered there's no such thing as a 411 landline anymore. Because my cell phone got burned up too. And I didn't, because of the electronics nowadays, you don't rely on your memory anymore. You just have all the directories, and so you don't remember numbers, and I couldn't remember her number. It was such a helpless feeling not being able to contact my daughter. And she had heard about it, and she was trying to track me down. There was a couple that came in that were from New York, of all places, and they indicated to me later that they felt that they were going to try to help somehow, and they saw me struggling to get a phone number, make contact. So they tried helping me with their phones, and they couldn't help either. They couldn't make a connection. And they had to leave to catch a plane back to New York, so they left me there. But they continued trying to contact my daughter. I gave them the information that I had, They were continuing while they were in their taxi or their rental they were going back to the airport. And they were able to contact my daughter. So they contacted my daughter and told my daughter where I was, and she came and picked me up about 8 or 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And later on, I sent them a few dollars and a thank you note.
That's nice.
They responded that they texted me that they really appreciated the money, and that if they ever get out this way sometime in the future, they'll contact me, and we can go out and have dinner, and they can explain to me how they ended up in the Finley Senior Citizen Center. And somehow they understood the Finley Center was a refuge, and they decided that they would try to help somehow.
Robert's daughter Cheryl, who lived in Petaluma, was finally reunited with her father. The next day, his other daughter Karen flew out from Virginia to help. That day, his daughter picked him up. He realized he had no identification.
Nothing in the way of identity of any kind. I was a non-entity at that point. I didn't have anything to identify.
No driver's license.
No driver's license.
Wow, I never thought about not...
Yeah, you never do think about something like that because it's so out of the realm to think about not having an identity of some kind. And she went to work. She went to work and got me... She called the VA and explained the situation to the VA. She had me over there that very same day. They gave me some hearing aids that were substitute hearing aids.
That same day. So you just get out of the shelter and now you've got hearing aids.
Yeah, the next day I got hearing aids. Before I got the hearing aids, the daughter in Petaluma took me down to the DMV. They both took me down to the DMV and got me registered for a new license.
Oh, good.
And then she took care of all these things. She got me a Medicare application. She just re-identified me. I can look in my wallet and see all the...
Robert continued to share with me how lucky he was to have such wonderful children who equally assisted him in getting his life back in order. From getting his identification to raising $10,000 in a GoFundMe account. He was overwhelmed with gratitude. Because there was so much support for those impacted by the fires, the hashtag Sonoma Strong was seen everywhere in Sonoma County. I asked Robert what help he received from the government. So did you get any support from FEMA or the Red Cross or any of the groups that were helping fire victims?
Well, FEMA did an audit of the loss of goods, and it got submitted to the FEMA, but I haven't heard anything from them.
You got nothing from FEMA?
No.
Really? Did you get, like the Redwood Credit Union was raising money?
Gave out
Did you get
$1,000, I think.
$1,000?
Yeah.
Is that all from everything you lost? That's all you got in?
Well, I got the I got a fund me thing that my daughter started.
Oh, GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Okay.
She got that, and that took care of a lot of replenishment of items of one kind or another. The cards that completely re-identified me in 3 days.
Oh my gosh, I never thought of that.
If I didn't have that kind of support, I don't
Yeah.
know where I'd be. Wow, what happened to the people that lost everything and didn't have support like I had?
Mm-hmm. Robert lost everything in his home, his car, his identity. I asked him what one item he regretted losing the most.
All the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I obsess about seeing pictures in my mind's eye that I lost, that I'm trying to re-image.
Oh.
And it's psychically unhealthy to do. I try to distract myself from thinking about it because it's gone. Pictures of my mother and my family and
yes.
all these. I had a project in mind of putting everything into a scrapbook and giving it to my daughters and grandchildren, and I never got around to it, so it just depresses me thinking about it.
Robert knew he had to face the inevitable and go to his home to see if anything survived. He hoped he would find the extra pair of hearing aids in his car.
That next morning, my son-in-law took the day off from work and drove us up there, and it was still, the smoke was still heavy, and in fact, there was still fire in some areas of the park. That's when I went back to see if I could find anything. I had an extra set of hearing aids in my car, and I thought maybe something had survived, but the car was completely burned up. And there was a photographer from NPR there, and an interviewer, and he was interviewing me as I was looking through the car, and he took a picture of me walking away, and was a little video work that he did, I guess, and it put it on the NPR station, and it went all over the world. And if you look at my name on NPR, there's a video they took that day, and it went all over the country. And I got relatives back east calling me and asking me how I was.
Oh, so they saw you on the
They saw me
NPR.
on NPR.
Really?
Yeah.
Like so many fire victims, finding something in the rubble would mean so much to Robert, but there was nothing left of his home and his belongings.
I found some coins that I had saved, but the coins were all melted together.
Oh, really?
I think I still have them in the back of the car.
Not only was Unit 26 burned to the ground, the majority of the other units were gone. Journey's End Mobile Home Park was in ruins.
The water system is gone. They had just put in a brand new electrical system. You know, these smart boxes.
Yes,
They
PG&E.
just completed it.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that cost, but it took months for them to do it. That's all been burned up. The water system is burned up. The sewer system is not functional, so it's not inhabitable at all. Not habitable.
Robert was an experienced fireman. During college, he worked for the Forest Service fighting fires. I asked him how he thought the Tubbs fire was handled.
Everybody was good. Everybody responded well. I have no complaints about any situation that I experienced. Everybody was more than hospitable and tried to be helpful, and everybody was just extraordinary. I feel fortunate that what happened to me in Sonoma County, because it seemed like the empathy and the desire to help out was stronger than I had ever imagined it would be. Thinking of fire coming in from outside and taking the inner part of a city is more dramatic than thinking in terms of people living out in the woods and having fire burn their houses, as opposed to this evil force coming right into the city and attacking it. I think a lot of people took it very personal.
Robert was fortunate to find a new home with PEP housing. The thousands of others impacted by the fires have not been as fortunate with housing. With very low vacancy rates in an already overcrowded market, and only 11 new homes rebuilt in almost a year, finding alternative housing is difficult. I told Robert that we've experienced a number of elderly fire victims living in their cars and other substandard conditions, waiting for an apartment to open up. I asked Robert where he thought people were going.
Well, my understanding is people are taking whatever insurance they could get and they're leaving. They're going to Arizona and buying a place with the cash that they got from the house here. And across some people that found places to rent, and they felt fortunate that they were able to get it for $2,200. And I'm thinking, holy smokes! This organization called PEP, I'm not exactly familiar with the whole operation, but I'm learning.
We talked about the help Robert received along the way, and he shared that he wanted to help other people like they helped him. Being 83 years old isn't going to stop Robert from paying forward.
I thought, that's something I can do. Yeah. Some sort of payback.
Okay, that's nice.
I need to help other people now. I can't just sit back and receive.
On October 8th, 2017, Robert's life changed forever, as did thousands of other people impacted by the Tubbs fire. But life goes on, and Robert understands his life will be forever impacted.
I thought I was going to stay there forever, because when you said, did I know the person who lived in the unit before I did, I knew the people who lived in the unit up there before.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I didn't know them, but I knew
You knew of them, okay.
And there were three of them, and all three of them passed away in that place.
Oh my gosh.
I thought, my turn's coming, I'm going to stay here
Oh
forever.
no. One of Robert's neighbors at Journey's End told him this as he was looking at the rubble that was once his home. This is not your journey's end. There is always a new journey. Thank you for listening to Pep Talks, The Tubbs Fire. This podcast was written and produced by Mary Stompe. Thank you to Robert Attubato for sharing your story.